We're back at the photo shoot where Jae-Gook asks Yoon if she knows Soo-Wan. Turns out, during his call with Yoo-Jung, she tells him that Yoon is that Yoon, which was apparently significant enough to make him decide to stay in Korea. Jae-Gook presses on what Yoon's relationship with Soo-Wan was, but she blocks the question by asking why she should answer. Here we flash back 10 years to Paris, where Yoon met and fell in love with Soo-Wan during her fashion study days. Meanwhile, Chi-sook, who has decided to pursue Jae-Gook, ropes Do-Hoon into setting up an interview with Jae-Gook to continue his professional relationship with Sono. Her hope is to then turn it into a personal one. She convinces Yoon to set up a dinner between herself and Jae-Gook to discuss the interview ahead of time. While Chi-sook is on her way, Yoon meets Jae-Gook at the restaurant to request his discretion regarding her filling in for Chi-sook at their blind date. Jae-Gook tries to direct the conversation back to Soo-Wan, but Yoon refuses to engage. At that, Jae-Gook criticizes Yoon for only ever wanting to have fun but hate getting serious, and says that while he gets it because he's like that too, she should be careful who she chooses because not all men are like him. Yoon tells him that he has crossed the line, but he continues on to tell her that Soo-Wan was serious, or did she not know that? They are interrupted by Chi-sook's arrival, who tells Yoon to eat first before going back to work. She complies, but opts to eat by herself at another table, and we see another flashback of Yoon's younger days, where Soo-Wan stresses the importance of enjoying at least one proper meal a day. At the one's office, a subcontractor drops off homemade kimchi to thank Yoon and the team for giving her business. She also introduces herself to Sono's youngest design team member, Yoon Soo-Young, and notices that she carries the specification sheet for Sono's new coat design. That night, Yoon is doing housework at her apartment while on the phone with her good friend Mi-Sook, telling her that Jae-Gook apparently knows Soo-Wan, which sends Mi-Sook into a rant about how Soo-Wan is to blame for Yoon not having become a famous designer in Paris. A very drunk Chi-sook arrives at Yoon's door along with Jae-Gook, Do-Hoon, and Kwak Soo-ho, who works for Do-Hoon and is Mi-Sook's husband. Yoon gets them more alcohol per Chi-sook's instruction and retreats back to her walk-in closet. Jae-Gook enters without permission and disregards her objection while continuing to pester her about Soo-Wan, wanting to know what he meant to her. He has a flashback to the past where on the other end of his phone, Soo-Wan swerves to avoid an oncoming traffic and crashes into a roadwork site. Yoon is finally fed up, disclosing that Soo-Wan apparently cut ties with her without any explanation, and she hasn't heard from him ever since. She was waiting for him at a restaurant and called him multiple times without any responses. We also saw in a flashback that when she finally gave up at closing time and walked home in the rain, she did not pay attention to a tow truck leaving a crash scene with Soo-Wan's wrecked car. Yoon tells Jae-Gook that she's been trying to break up with the misery and self-pity that she's felt that night ever since, because it does her no good, and all she can do and want to do now is accept her reality and move on. Jae-Gook softens after hearing Yoon's side of the story, and seeing her exhaustion and discomfort prompts the group to leave. So-ho goes back to Mi-Sook while Do-Hoon escorts Chi-sook in a taxi ride home. Jae-Gook also begins to walk home, but stops and turns back to Yoon's apartment. He rings her doorbell, but she doesn't answer, so he keeps ringing as she hesitates on the other side of the door. When she eventually pushes the door open, Jae-Gook embraces her. They kiss as they make their way further into her apartment. She tells him that experience does not make one courageous, it actually makes one fearful, and right now she's very afraid of him. He kisses her without another word, and the scene ends. Jae-Gook only returns home the next morning to find Do-Hoon looking distressed. He recounts to Jae-Gook that on his taxi ride with Chi-sook, she drunkenly flung herself onto him as he nervously told her to wait. At that moment, the taxi driver made a hard turn and Chi-sook fell further onto him and kissed him full on the lips. Do-Hoon also lets Jae-Gook know that his interview is cancelled because Sono is in troubled waters. We cut to the one's office, where news has broken out that Sono's coat design was leaked, and other brands have already started releasing copies. Yoon is reprimanded for the leak and is told to have a plan to make up for the losses that will be incurred. So-young, the new member on the team, bursts out crying, and the teen learns that the subcontractor conned So-young into showing her the specification sheet, even though she hasn't been offered the contract yet. The one CEO told Yoon to cancel their new launch to prevent damage to the brand's image. So-young wants to resign to pay for her mistake, but Yoon tells her to stay and take responsibility instead. Yoon pays a visit to the subcontractor, who unashamedly admits to leaking the design to make a quick buck in order to pay for her child's education. Yoon reminds her that taking advantage of newbies and stepping over other people's hard work are not behavior a good mother should model, and tells her to also prepare for a lawsuit ahead. She then arrives at a shopping center where Sono knockoffs are everywhere, but decides to follow her heart and release their design anyways, confident that people will still pay for the prestige of the original. She heads back to the office in the rain, where she drops her phone. As she picks it up, Jae-Gook appears with an umbrella to cover her. He knows about the leak and asks if she had lunch yet, stressing the importance of enjoying at least one proper meal a day. The statement immediately reminds her of Soo-Wan, and she finally asks what relationship the two have. Jae-Gook reveals to her that Soo-Wan was his brother and that he died 10 years ago. Who saw that coming? I'm sure we all did. And that's it for this episode. How do you feel about the idea of getting involved with the dead brother's ex-lover? Let me know in the comments. Click the subscribe button if you want to receive updates on future episodes and other dramas like this. Thank you for watching.